The gentleman from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, thank you, and I want to thank the gentleman for Virginia for yielding me the customary 30 minutes, and I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, we heard a lot of words from the gentleman from Virginia, but the reality is that some people's premiums are going up 100%, and their big grand plan is to give people an 11% coupon. I mean, this is laughable. It is pathetic. Mr. Speaker, here we are, likely one of the very last floor debates of the year, and Republicans have decided to use it to eliminate health care for millions of Americans, not by accident, but because they simply don't care, because they are clueless, they are incompetent, and they are unbelievably out of touch. This Republican majority has done nothing for working people, nothing to lower costs, nothing to make life more affordable. But boy, have they delivered for billionaires and corporations and special interests. They have spent an entire year screwing over the people that they represent. They are betraying the voters that sent them here. They're pretending like Trump's economy is great, even though they know it sucks. They've showered tax breaks on the ultra-rich. They've bent the knee to big oil, big pharma, big tech. They've handed the Pentagon billions it didn't even ask for. And now they have the nerve to tell working families, sorry, no money for your health care. Can't do a thing. I mean, really? Give me a freaking break. The American people are begging for action on affordability. They are begging for action to lower the cost of health care. What more do they need to do to get Republicans to take action? Premiums are about to double, triple, and in some cases quadruple. Families could see their premiums increase as much as $1,000 a month. Open enrollment deadlines have already passed. Parents have sat at their kitchen tables and realized that between rent, groceries, childcare, and Trump's tariffs driving up the cost of damn near everything, health insurance is something they could no longer afford. And instead of a plan on health care, last night in the Rules Committee, I heard one Republican excuse after another about why they can't extend these tax credits that help people get insurance coverage. I mean, you guys have been in charge of this place for 3 years, for God's sake. Donald Trump has been president or running for president for like a decade. Where the hell is the Republican plan on health care? Where is it? Republicans keep blaming the ACA. They've spent years and years trying to repeal it, but they haven't repealed it yet because they have no replacement, no alternative. Mr. Speaker, one of your own Republican members called this entire charade political malpractice. He was right. He was right. Meanwhile, Democrats have been trying for months to avert this crisis. Governors, doctors, patients have been sounding the alarm. And instead of working with us, you guys decided to shut down the government. And instead of trying to partner with us, Donald Trump is calling affordability a con job. Unbelievable, unbelievable. So out of touch with reality. And now Republicans have slapped together this pathetic bill to provide cover. A bill that's not worth the paper it's printed on. A bill that actually kicks people off of coverage. And that fails to extend the tax credits that keep health care affordable for over 20 million Americans. I mean, come on, get real. And just to make sure that we all know that they aren't serious, Republicans included a poison pill, which brings us closer and closer to a nationwide abortion ban. They are going after abortion even in states where it is legal. I mean, who the hell asked for this? This is like a plot of The Handmaid's Tale. And despite Republicans' endless attempts to undermine the ACA, it's popular because it works. And after Democrats strengthened people's ability to pay for health care by plussing up the premium tax credits, enrollment more than doubled from around 11 million to over 24 million Americans with real health insurance. 88% of that growth happened in states that Donald Trump won in 2024, by the way. So by choosing to not extend these credits, Republicans are simply hurting their own constituents, hurting the people who trusted them, hurting the people who voted for them. More than 20 million Americans will see their health care costs explode on January 1st. And instead of a fix, we get a stupid, pathetic, last-minute bill designed to let Republicans cover their ass before they flee town for the holidays. What a lousy, rotten, pathetic thing to do. This is a terrible bill that screws over millions of American families. I urge every member of this House to vote hell no on this Republican rule. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I reserve my time.
The gentleman from Massachusetts reserves. The gentleman from Virginia is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 1.5 minutes to the gentlelady from Georgia, Ms. Green.
Thank you.
The gentleman from Georgia is recognized.
Thank you. I'm here this morning to urge my colleagues to support the rule, which includes H.R. 3492, the Protect Children's Innocence Act. My bill criminalizes the genital mutilation, such as this young lady right here, and chemical castration of children, imprisoning offenders for up to 10 years. For far too long, children have been sexually exploited under the malicious falsehood of so-called gender-affirming care. Mutilating children's bodies and giving them sterilizing drugs is anything but affirming and anything but care, especially given the fact that this is happening in too many cases before these kids are ever old enough to legally vote, legally get a tattoo, ink printed on their own bodies, and make real adult decisions. The same drug that has been used to chemically castrate sex offenders has been given to children who have been manipulated into thinking they were born in the wrong body. Everyone knows that children many times are confused about who they want to be when they grow up or about their identity, and the children are not to blame. It's our job as adults to protect these kids and allow them to grow up safely and healthy and not make decisions that last a lifetime, such as this right here that happened to this teenage girl. I urge my colleagues to vote yes to the rule, and I urge my colleagues to do the most responsible thing any adult can do for a child and protect them while they grow up. I yield back.
The gentleman reserves.
Gentleman reserves.
The gentleman from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, the gentleman from Virginia keeps saying that if we really supported the enhanced premium tax credits, that we would have made them permanent. I think we all know that's kind of ridiculous because I want to point out that their number one floor protocol, requires that programs end or sunset by a certain date. I mean, it was part of their ridiculous pledge to America. So, maybe they don't believe all the garbage that they put out there, but that's their protocol. Mr. Speaker, I now would like to yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Doggett.
The gentleman from Texas is recognized.
In a bill that they call big and beautiful, Republicans have approved the biggest reduction in access to health care in American history. They rejected my amendment in committee to maintain the tax credits that make the Affordable Care Act truly affordable. And now, after shutting down the government for weeks, delaying further weeks, they offer this sorry bill, this loser, as wrapped up in a bow for Christmas. To Andrew and his family down in Austin, this phony bill means zero relief on premiums. Premiums that are going to spike for his family by nearly $2,000 per month. Nothing for Russell, a prostate cancer survivor, just 2 years away from Medicare, wondering how he will afford the screenings and any necessary care. And for a mother in Austin who contacted me about the stop-loss provision that is reinforced in this bill, the possibility that after her 3-year-old child is diagnosed with cancer, they will lose all their coverage. These are real-life stories from my neighbors who've been forgotten by Republicans in their rush to provide more tax benefits for their billionaire buddies. They forget the struggles of so many working Americans. Republicans have made over 70 attempts to destroy the Affordable Care Act, which they all opposed. They peddled junk insurance policies that would deny essential consumer protection benefits under the Affordable Care Act. They could even make matters worse with one provision in this bill that will allow the reinstituting of pre-existing conditions that were used to bar coverage for so many people before the Affordable Care Act. This is their commitment to deny health care, to provide no relief on premiums that are soaring.
The gentleman's time has
short,
expired.
It means replacing Obamacare with nothing care. I yield back.
The gentleman from Massachusetts reserves. The gentleman from Virginia is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, it gets curiouser and curiouser. Gentleman from Massachusetts referenced that our protocol is to have sunsets. But when my colleagues on the other side of the aisle had the opportunity to make permanent the premium enhanced tax credits, we didn't control the floor. They controlled the floor. They don't have that protocol, as I understand it. They don't have that protocol that they put sunsets on things. They could have and did make other programs in the Green New Deal permanent, but they could have made it permanent. They chose not to. They had the Senate, the House, and the presidency. So it's not House Republican protocol that stopped them. It was a lack of votes or will. If the program was so imperative, if the program is so imperative today, why wasn't it imperative for them 3 years ago? I submit this is a paper tiger and that there is no substance in their arguments, or if some substance, just a small amount. But Mr. Speaker, they had the chance, they had the power, they didn't use it to do what they want us to do today to fix their problems with their so-called Affordable Care Act. I reserve.
Gentleman from Virginia reserves. The gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I was just merely pointing out Republican hypocrisy, which we deal with every single day. And we want to have a vote on extending the tax credits, but Republicans denied that in the Rules Committee. And Republicans could bring a bill to make the enhanced premium tax credits permanent, but they are not. And instead what they did is they brought a bill to the floor to make tax cuts for multimillionaires and billionaires permanent. Every millionaire in this country is going to get an $80,000 tax break. That's where their priorities are. Every millionaire will get an $80,000 tax credit, and the 25 million people in this country who are relying on the enhanced tax credit so they don't lose their health insurance, they're basically telling them, the hell with you. I mean, that is where their priorities are. We don't share the same values when it comes to making sure that people in this country have health care that is affordable and that is quality. And that's the difference. And that is the difference. And we are here today to fight to make sure that we have a vote to extend these tax credits so that people do not lose their health insurance and people do not see their health care premiums explode. Mr. Speaker, I yield 2 minutes to the gentlewoman from Ohio, Ms. Sykes.
The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I rise in support of my proposed amendment to H.R. 6703 and in opposition to the underlying bill. In 2 weeks, 22 million Americans will see their health care premiums double, triple, or quadruple, costing them hundreds of additional dollars a month, and more than 4 million Americans will lose their coverage entirely. This includes 12,300 Ohioans in my district alone. This Republican health care crisis is completely and entirely preventable, and House Democrats and even a few Republicans have a solution: extend the Affordable Care Act enhanced premium tax credits. But what do House Republicans propose instead? A collection of failed policies that would raise prices, leaving an additional 100,000 people without insurance and restricting access to abortion care, setting the stage for a national abortion ban. But I believe it's my job to offer solutions to help the American people, and specifically my constituents in Ohio. That's why I propose an amendment to remove the section responsible for increasing costs and limiting access to reproductive health care. Right now, any and all abortion coverage provided under marketplace plans are not paid for by the federal dollars. However, this bill would impose unprecedented restrictions on private dollars and is yet another Republican attempt to ban reproductive health care coverage across this country. It is unacceptable that Congress is about to head home having done nothing to protect the millions of Americans who will lose coverage on January 1st. The heartbreaking stories from my constituents who have no clue how they're going to make ends meet as we enter into what should be a merry holiday season. Mr. Speaker, I had a professor in college who was very clear in calling us out when we were unprepared when we showed up for our class. He would call us derelict, negligent, and trifling. This Congress, Mr. Speaker, is derelict, negligent, and trifling for failing to ensure that Americans have health care coverage and we are actually lowering their costs. This bill is deceptive at best, cruel at worst, and I encourage my colleagues to extend these enhanced tax credits before it's too late. I yield back.
The gentleman from Massachusetts reserves. The gentleman from Virginia is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I reserve.
The gentleman from Virginia reserves. The gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, Republicans keep talking about how Democrats want to give more money to insurance companies, which is absolutely absurd. They all know that. Nothing could be more ridiculous, and let me just correct the record. First of all, ACA tax credits go to our constituents to help them pay for health care. But second, it was the Affordable Care Act, the bill that the gentleman and a lot of Republicans want to repeal, which mandated that greedy insurance companies have to spend 80% to 85% of premiums on medical care. It's called the medical loss ratio. The gentleman should look it up, and it's in the Affordable Care Act. So when he's talking about repealing the ACA, he is the one who wants to overturn that provision and let insurance companies rip people off even more than they already do. Now, let me make one last point. We could easily move away from health insurance companies ripping people off. We could do what the vast majority of developed nations do and move toward a public option so that people don't have to choose a private health insurance company. But to say that Democrats are the ones who want to enrich insurance companies is absurd. Mr. Speaker, Republicans support big banks. They support big tech. They support billionaires. They support tax breaks for huge, greedy corporations. And they accuse Democrats of being in the pocket of the insurance industry? Give me a break. Nobody believes this BS. I mean, look at your big, ugly bill. Look at all the tax breaks that go to millionaires and billionaires and big corporations. Every millionaire, as I stated before, because of Republicans, are getting an $80,000 tax break. Every millionaire in this country. And what we're saying here is we want to make sure that health insurance is affordable for every single person in this country. And Republicans are replying by, we can't be bothered with that. That's not where our priorities are. Maybe they don't write out big enough checks for your campaigns. But the bottom line is that we are here arguing that people in this country shouldn't lose their health care because they can't afford it. And we could do something right this instant to fix that. And Republicans are blocking every attempt, and they're bringing this crappy bill to the floor that didn't even go through regular order, didn't go through committee. They just patched it together and brought it before the Rules Committee. And by the way, CBO says that their terrible bill that they're bringing to the floor will throw another 100,000 people off of health insurance. By just passing this bill, 100,000 additional people will lose their health insurance. This is ridiculous. I reserve my time.
The gentleman from Massachusetts reserves. The gentleman from Virginia is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 6 minutes to the gentlelady from North Carolina, the chairwoman of the Rules Committee.
The gentlewoman from North Carolina is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Vice Chair of the committee for yielding. Mr. Speaker, the Unaffordable Care Act was born as a lie and continues to be promoted in terms that are lies. Remember these promises? If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. If you like your health insurance, you can keep your insurance. Americans will save over $2,500 per year. All of those were lies. And now those who continue to support the Unaffordable Care Act are misleading Americans about its current situation. When the law was first debated, Democrats insisted that over 50 million Americans couldn't afford health insurance. That was exposed as a lie. Many Americans proved simply to be foregoing insurance in many instances. Democrats use this as an excuse to rewrite the entire framework of the individual health care insurance marketplace, forcing people onto plans that had their premiums rise by 129% since 2014. Indeed, indeed, the very first year Obamacare went into effect, premiums skyrocketed by 47%. This is the true record of the Unaffordable Care Act. And despite the lies that continue to be told in the media to this day, Republicans have always proposed alternatives to the failed Unaffordable Care Act framework that Democrats continue to force onto Americans, and we're doing it again with this bill. Instead of simply enabling the current fraud, waste, and abuse exposed in the Unaffordable Care Subsidy scheme that Democrats are addicted to, we're offering transformative policies that will root out hidden costs, attack inflationary programs, and increase competition throughout the entire health care insurance marketplace, lowering premiums for all Americans. But, Mr. Speaker, even when all the evidence is presented to them on how rancid of a health care scheme the Unaffordable Care Act really is, Democrats leap to their feet and become entirely apoplectic. They do not tell the truth about the current situation or what we are doing. This is why they fused themselves to the Unaffordable Care Act to such a point that they outright refuse to seek reasonable reforms that help Americans afford health care. They won't do it. Look at how they've superglued themselves to their temporary COVID subsidies that they themselves concocted and stamped an end date on, as my colleague has said. I suppose all they know how to do is prop up a failed program that's littered with waste, fraud, and abuse, like cancerous lesions. Don't take my word for it. Just look at the GAO report. Its estimates show millions of improper enrollments, costing American taxpayers up to $275 billion annually. One Social Security number used for 26,000 days of coverage. More than 58,000 deceased people receiving tax credits. All in all, a massive fraudulent boondoggle for the American people. Meanwhile, Republicans remain committed to rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse in all corners of the federal government. The CBO already confirmed that our efforts to root out waste, fraud, and abuse in the Unaffordable Care Act by way of H.R. 1 lowered health care premiums for enrollees. Imagine that. Attacking waste and fraud lowers cost. Yet Democrats want to embrace the opposite and cement a system of inflation. And here's the kicker, Mr. Speaker. Only 7% of Americans enrolled in an Unaffordable Care Act plan would see a paltry 4% decrease in their premiums if these subsidies were extended. Republicans are advancing real reforms in health care. Unlike Democrats, we're not attempting to place a Band-Aid on a ruptured artery and call it a day. Mr. Speaker, the Lower Health Care Premiums for All Americans Act is our solution. It's the solution that the American people deserve. It would lower health care premiums by 11% for all Americans, increase health care access, expand choice in health care, and bring about greater transparency to the health care system in the United States. Republicans are offering a clear, responsible, and straightforward solution so that all Americans have access to health care that is affordable and meets their respective needs. If our colleagues were serious about making health care more affordable for Americans, they'd support this bill alongside Republicans. Let's see what they choose to do. I yield back.
From Virginia reserves. The gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, the gentlelady, the chairwoman of the Rules Committee, knows I have great affection for her, but I just want to correct something. She says that the Republicans have always had a plan to deal with health care and to lower costs for people. But the truth is they've always said they have a plan, but they've never had a plan. Let me just go through a list of things here. In February of 2016, then presidential candidate Donald Trump said, we're going to replace Obamacare with something so much better. Nothing followed. On February 27th of 2017, the president said, we have a really terrific, I believe, health care plan coming out. Never did. May 10th, 2018, Donald Trump said, but wait till you see the plans that we have coming out literally over the next 4 weeks. We have a great health care plan coming out. Nothing happened. At a press gaggle near Air Force One in May of 2019, he said, we're coming up with a great health care plan. We're going to have a fantastic health care plan that's coming out in the next 4 weeks. Nothing ever materialized. June 16th, 2019, the president said, we're going to produce a phenomenal health care plan, and we already have the concept of a plan, and it will be so much better health care. Yeah, well, we'll be announcing it in about 2 months, maybe less. Nothing happened. Fox News interview, the president said, we're signing in a health care plan within 2 weeks, a full and complete health care plan. Nothing happened. July 2020, the president said, well, we're going to be doing a health care plan. We're going to be doing a very inclusive health care plan. I'll be signing it sometime very soon. It might be Sunday, but very, very soon. Nothing happened. August 3rd, 2020, the president says we're going to be introducing a tremendous health care plan sometime prior, hopefully prior to the end of the month. It's just about completed. Nothing. September 15th, 2020, the president says you're going to have a new health care. We have a whole bunch of alternatives to Obamacare that are 50% less expensive and are actually better. Nothing. Never happened. September 10th, 2024, ABC News presidential debate. He says, I have concepts of a plan. You'll be hearing about it in the not-too-distant future. Nothing happened. December 8th, 2024, he said, we have concepts of a plan that will be much better. You'll see it very soon. Produced nothing. In May of 2025, at a White House event, he says, so we're going to be maybe coming up with something. I think this gives the Republicans a chance to actually do a health care that's much better than Obamacare. Nothing. People are sick and tired of the empty rhetoric. They're sick and tired of you saying you have a plan and you never produce one. All you want to do is undermine health care for hardworking average Americans. Mr. Speaker, I yield 2 minutes to the gentlewoman from California, Ms. Rivas.
The gentlewoman from California is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Ranking Member, for yielding to me. Republicans have been in the majority and in control for this whole year, and yet they have not put forward a bill that helps working families with the rising cost of living or to prevent hardworking Americans' health care premiums from skyrocketing in price. Republicans drove the country into a health care crisis, and they continue to have no pathway to get us out of it. With health care premiums set to skyrocket at the end of December, Republicans' solution is an unserious proposal that kicks millions of Americans off their coverage, puts health care out of reach, and takes away women's freedom to make their own health care decisions. Under Republicans' concept of a health care plan, working Americans will be forced to make tough decisions, such as if they should take their child to the doctor or buy groceries for the week. Republicans' concept of a health care plan means bankruptcy will be one medical emergency away for millions of Americans. If Republicans were serious about helping their constituents and addressing the health care crisis that they manufactured with the big, ugly bill, they would join Democrats and vote to extend the ACA tax credits for 3 years. We only need one more Republican to sign, one more to help American families afford health care. I will vote no on this rule and the underlying bill to protect my over 31,000 constituents who rely on these ACA tax credits to make their health care affordable. I encourage my colleagues to do the same. Thank you, and I yield back.
The gentleman from Massachusetts reserves. The chair will receive a message.
Messages from the Senate.
Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Secretary.
I have been directed by the Senate to inform the House that the Senate has passed S-355, an act to require the Secretary of Health and Human Services acting through the Commissioner of Food and Drugs, to publish a final rule relating to non-clinical testing methods in which the concurrence of the House is requested.
The gentleman from Virginia is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And my colleagues on the other side continually say that we haven't done anything. We just received a message from the Senate on a Republican bill that does something. Now, they may not like it, but I find it fascinating, and these debates are always so interesting, Mr. Speaker. They say we haven't put forward anything at some points, and at other points in their debate, they claim that this bill's terrible, it does nothing. But let me remind you, Mr. Speaker, that a part of this bill revives a Democrat plan that was supposed to be short-term called cost-sharing reductions. And it's fascinating because during the first Trump administration, in May of 2017, my Democrat colleagues, and I know some of them weren't here yet, but 196 signed a letter, including the gentleman from Massachusetts, asking, because it was not codified to go on, but asking President Trump to use his executive power to continue the cost-sharing reduction plan. Now, Mr. Speaker, I would love to hear from my colleagues why cost-sharing reduction by them was considered to be so important to be continued to help 7 million hardworking Americans and their families, more than half, I'm reading from their letter, of all the marketplace enrollees for 2017 afford their out-of-pocket health care costs. That's what cost-sharing reduction does. Today they claim that as a part of our bill, it's nothing, it's worthless, it's not worth the paper it's written on. But in 2017, 196 of them, including the gentleman from Massachusetts, asked the President of the United States to continue the program. Today we're answering that call and saying, okay, we will answer that and put it in our bill. But because it's now proposed as part of a Republican bill, my colleagues, for some reason, don't remember their position in 2017 and call it trash. Could it be mere political posturing for November elections? I submit it is and reserve.
Gentleman from Virginia reserves. The gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, if we defeat the previous question, I will offer an amendment to the rule to provide for consideration of H.R. 6074, which would extend the Affordable Care Act enhanced premium tax credits for 3 years through 2028. Mr. Speaker, this is it. I mean, this is the one last chance this year, this session, for this Republican majority to do the right thing and vote to extend the ACA enhanced premium tax credits. And if Republicans allow them to expire, millions of Americans, millions of their constituents, will be faced with rising health insurance costs, and in some cases by more than $1,000 per month. But, Mr. Speaker, I have an important announcement to make, and if there's anybody in the press gallery listening, I want them to hear this. You know, I have called on Republicans to put country over politics, put country over their party, to do the right thing for their constituents. And we have a discharge petition that 214 Democrats have signed on to force a bill on a 3-year clean extension. And while we have been debating, 4 Republicans have actually done that. We are now at 218. And what that means is that it sets in place a process that will allow us to vote on a clean extension. And we have 218 people who will vote for it, which means we will pass it. But unfortunately, the procedures around a discharge petition mean that we can't get to it until we come back from our holiday break, so in January. But we don't need to wait for the discharge petition to ripen. We can actually act today. And so we want to preserve the tax credits for 20 million working-class Americans that rely on them. And Democrats in this House and in the Senate have acted like adults in this room during our entire months-long effort to get Republicans to do the right thing. We have, and I want to thank those those Republicans who signed the discharge petition, because that is actually going to make sure that we have a vote and we can extend these tax benefits. But again, you know, we can kind of short-circuit the process. If we defeat the previous question, we can vote on it today. And so, Mr. Speaker, we're offering this to be able to bring it up immediately, and I ask unanimous consent to insert the text of my amendment into the record along with any extraneous material immediately prior to the vote on the previous question.
Without objection.
I'll yield to the gentleman for a question.
So while we're thankful at this belated decision of 4 Republicans here at the last minute to join the discharge petition, unless they join us in voting in favor of this action on the previous question, there's nothing that can be done this year because the Speaker will continue to obstruct premium relief for Americans.
That is correct. We do thank these Republicans for getting us to 218, but we hope they would join us.
This would be the key vote.
This is a key vote. And to discuss our proposal, I yield 3 minutes to the gentlewoman from Connecticut, Ms. Hayes.
The gentleman from Connecticut is recognized.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I rise to defeat the previous question and bring up H.R. 6074, which provides for a clean 3-year extension of the Affordable Care Act enhanced tax credits. Congress has 3 legislative days left to extend the ACA tax credits, or they will expire at the end of the year. The impact of the tax credits expiring is devastating. Expiration of the tax credits will result in health premiums increasing by an average of 114% for individuals who rely on the marketplace, forcing 4.2 million people to lose their health insurance. I hear the fear in the voices of my constituents, Republicans and Democrats, and Americans across the country who talk about health care and the looming crisis. Small business owners, independent contractors, retirees, farmers, constituents in my district continue to call my office or stop me to share how they will be unable to afford health care as they continue to experience rising costs for essentials like groceries, insurance, utilities, and housing. If Republicans can find a way to provide tax cuts for billionaires, Congress can find a way to provide relief for individuals to access health care. As I've said, we are under the pressure of time. We have a discharge petition, but that will take 7 days for a ripening through the House procedures. What we can do today is vote to defeat this previous question. I again thank the 4 Republicans who have joined us, but time is of the essence, and they need to go one step farther and vote to defeat the previous question alongside Democrats so that we can have a vote today in this House before we go on break. Congress must protect health care and lower the cost for all Americans by extending the ACA tax credits. As my colleague, Mr. McGovern, said, this isn't about Democrats. This is all of our constituents who benefit from the Affordable Care Act. This is all of our constituents who face rising deductibles and premiums. This is all of our constituents who fear that they will lose their health care. No reasonable proposal has been introduced. This is what we have today. Help us defeat the previous question, and I yield back.
The gentleman from Massachusetts reserves. The gentleman from Virginia is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I reserve.
The gentleman from Virginia reserves. The gentleman from Massachusetts is
May I
recognized.
inquire how much time I have, each side has remaining, Mr. Speaker?
The general has 5.5 minutes remaining.
And how much the other side?
The gentleman from Virginia has 4.5 minutes remaining.
I yield myself 1 minute, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, Republicans love to find ways to justify kicking millions of working people off of health care. The chairwoman of the Rules Committee talked about fraud. Well, if fraud is your primary concern, how about you start with President Trump, who was pardoned or commuted not 1, not 2, but 12 people convicted of health care fraud. And my Republican friends have been silent. Not a word, not a word. One guy was convicted of $1.3 billion in a Medicare fraud scheme, the largest health care fraud scheme charged by the Department of Justice. We had another woman convicted of orchestrating $205 million in a Medicare fraud scheme involving assisted living facilities. We had another guy convicted of 67 counts of health care fraud and related charges relating to Medicare and other health care programs. I can go on and on and on, Mr. Speaker. I'm not sure what they did to earn those pardons, but maybe they promise to say nice things about Trump. But when Republicans come to the floor and talk about fraud, just remember that they are the ones who pardon over and over and over again health care fraudsters, while at the same time screwing over the American people by taking away their health care. I reserve.
The gentleman from Massachusetts reserves. The gentleman from Virginia is recognized.
Speaker, I reserve and I'm prepared to close.
The gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized.
I yield myself the remaining time, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, let's be honest about what's happening here, because this really is not that complicated, and the American people aren't stupid. This Republican bill does not fix the health care crisis facing this country. It doesn't even try. And instead, Republicans are going to raise costs, weaken coverage, and deliberately allow the Affordable Care Act tax credits to expire, knowing full well that millions of families will lose affordable coverage as a result. That outcome is not a side effect, it's the point. For more than a decade, Republicans have promised a better health care system, a replacement for the ACA, something, anything that would justify taking coverage away from people who need it. 10 years later, there is still no plan, no replacement, no solution. And why? Because they are totally fine with the system of the haves and have-nots. They want a system where those at the top have affordable care and everyone else is left in the dust. Republicans have controlled the House of Representatives for 3 long years, and during that time, the priorities of this majority have been crystal clear. When billionaires, CEOs, and corporate special interests need something, Republicans move with lightning speed. Tax breaks for the rich and powerful pass overnight. Loopholes appear out of nowhere. Regulations vanish into thin air while big oil, big tech, big banks and get whatever they want. Republicans have no problem handing out massive tax giveaways to donors who write big campaign checks, no problem padding the profits of greedy corporations, no problem voting to give the Pentagon $8 billion more than it even asked for without so much as a shrug. But when it comes to working people, when they need affordable health care, suddenly the story changes. Suddenly there is hand-wringing. Suddenly there is paralysis. Suddenly the money is gone. Suddenly America can't pay for it. My friends, if you're okay with that, we do not share the same values. If you think it's fine to give handouts to billionaires while stealing health care from regular people, we do not have the same moral compass. Because the bottom line is this country has a Republican Congress that works just fine for the rich and powerful while telling everybody else to tighten their belts. There is always money for giveaways to CEOs and corporate stock buybacks. There is always money for billionaire tax shelters. But when a working family needs help staying insured, Republicans say it's too expensive. So this is a question of our priorities as a nation. What makes this even more infuriating is that Democrats have already put forward a responsible and reasonable solution that would help stop this crisis in its tracks. We have 218 people who have signed this discharge petition. 4 Republicans signed this discharge petition, and I hope that they will vote to bring this same bill up today. And to the moderates who didn't get the opportunity to sign it, I say this. This is your chance to get on record and show your constituents that you're serious about getting this done. Imagine what that would mean. It would mean lower costs, stable coverage, a Congress that proves it still answers to working families instead of to the billionaire class. And instead, we get this GOP inaction and incompetence. Look, at the end of the day, health care coverage should not depend on how much money someone makes. We live in the richest country on earth. Health care should be a human right, available to every person in every community without exception. The United States remains the only major developed nation that does not guarantee health care for everyone. And that is not because we can't afford it. It is because powerful interests make too much money from the status quo. So, to any Republican who knows this bill is wrong, who understands what this will do back home, and who still believes in this institution, that this institution should work for the people it represents, this is the moment. Extend the tax credits, protect the coverage of your constituents, and stand with us to say that it is time for Congress to put patients ahead of profits and working families ahead of billionaires. I urge a no vote on this rule, and I yield back my time.
The gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Virginia is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, the gentleman is absolutely correct in this one point. If what they want is socialized medicine, yes, I am against it, and so are most of the Republicans in this House. We are not for socialized medicine. I remember being in Edinburgh in 1979 when I was a student, and Mr. Finch across the hall in socialized medicine had to wait 10 months to get surgery for a blockage in his heart. When I came home, I discovered that in the United States, it would have been 3 days before we would have had that surgery. He died a couple of years later because socialized medicine warehouses people until they have time to get to them. That's not what our system does, nor should it. Further, I would tell you that the Democrats come here today. It's their health care system. They created it. When they created the Affordable Care Act, there were no Republican votes. When they extended it or changed it a little bit and eventually renewed it again in the Inflation Reduction Act, there were no Republican votes for that. But today they want to blame Republicans for their failures, for their policy failures. The American people will eventually see through that. I know they've done a great job of convincing the American people that's the case, but it isn't true. And they talk about the fact that as the costs are going up and they want this new plan to throw $85 billion at the insurance companies, that 85% has to be spent on health care, and that's true. But 15% what the insurance company gets to put in their pockets of $500 is a whole lot less than 15% of $2,000. So if you throw more money at the insurance companies, the big insurance executives get more money to put in their pockets, and they're smiling like Cheshire cats as the costs go up and they pocket larger profits. And perhaps my Democrat colleagues don't want to admit it or don't realize that they are being the front men for big insurance, but that's what they are. They're the front men for big insurance. Instead of facing reality, their answer is blame the Republicans and throw more insurance money, throw more taxpayer money at the big insurance companies. Giving the insurance companies more money will not solve our health care problems. Mr. Speaker, I yield back the balance of my time and move the previous question on the resolution.
The gentleman yields back the balance of his time, and the question is on the ordering of the previous question on the resolution. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
I ask for the yeas and nays.
The yeas and nays are requested. Those favoring a vote by the yeas and nays will rise. A sufficient number has risen. The yeas and nays are ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. And pursuant to Clause 9 of Rule 20, the chair will reduce to 5 minutes the minimum time for any electronic vote on the question of adoption of the resolution if ordered. This is a 15-minute vote.
On this vote, the yeas are 204, the nays are 203. Previous question is ordered. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. For what purpose does the gentleman from Massachusetts
Vote,
rise?
Mr. Speaker.
A
He
recorded
was in the
vote
will,
is
Mr.
requested.
Speaker. He was
Those
in the
favoring
will.
a recorded vote
This is
will
an
rise.
outrage.
A sufficient number having risen, a recorded vote is ordered. Members will record their vote by electronic device. This is a 5-minute vote.